Okay, I have the great pleasure of introducing our next speaker, Jan Pepper. Jan Pepper was the first employee and founding CEO of Peninsula Clean Energy, the community choice energy program serving San Mateo County since 2016, leading the organization's strategic goal to deliver 100% renewable energy on a 24/7 basis. She retired from Peninsula Clean Energy in June 2023 and is currently a visiting scholar in the Precourt Institute for Energy here at Stanford. A Stanford graduate herself, she was elected to the City Council of Los Altos in 2012 and served 2 terms from 2012 through 2020, including as mayor in 2015 and 2020. So Jan, thanks so much for being here.
Can you see me over the computer? I'll try to, okay.
If it's helpful, I can move this over here. So
okay, I can be more on the side. Thank you all for coming here today. It's really fun to be at Stanford, always. And let's see. So Keegan introduced you as to kind of my background with community choice energy. How many of you understand what community choice aggregation is or are familiar with that? Okay, maybe about 10 or 15%. So I'm going to talk about what CCAs are and how they're created and how entrepreneurs and investors can engage with them and partner with them, and also look at expanding the grid. So my focus is on electricity and electricity technologies. So back in 2002 in California, and this will be a little bit California-centric because that's where my experience is, but there is some, I'll talk a little bit about how it's beyond California. So there was a bill passed in 2002 that allowed cities or other or counties or other government agencies to aggregate their electric load and serve and make a choice as to what kind of electricity sources they wanted to have for their residents and businesses. And it's an opt-out program, meaning if a jurisdiction like a city or a county votes to have a community choice energy program, then everyone within that jurisdiction is automatically part of that program. And if they don't want to be part of it, they can opt out. So basically it allows the community choice energy program to have a large customer base to start, which is really important because you need the scale. And the first CCA that was established in California was Marin Clean Energy. It now goes by the name MCE. In Marin, they're now serving Marin, Contra Costa, a few other counties. And then the 5th one was Peninsula Clean Energy, which I became a part of in 2016. Today there are 24 CCAs, so they've grown a lot. And the voting to be part of a CCA is just by the city council or the board of supervisors. It's not a vote of the entire population. So the elected officials are the ones who decide whether or not their jurisdiction is going to do that. And oftentimes cities and counties will join together and create another type of organization called a Joint Powers Authority, another acronym, JPA, and that kind of protects the city or the county financially from any problems that the CCA might have. And that's always important to cities. They don't want to have their general funds at risk. So it's kind of an independent organization, but it's a governmental organization. It's a not-for-profit. So kind of similar to a municipal utility, but without the poles and wires. So the local utility, in this case PG&E, still runs the poles and wires. They're still responsible when the power goes out because a tree has knocked down a pole or something like that. And the billing is also done by the utility. So PG&E still sends the bill, and there's a line item on their bill for the electricity generation that the CCA is providing. Let's see. And this shows in California where all of the CCAs are. The green and the yellow shows where they are, basically from Humboldt County all the way down to San Diego County. And then there's some in the middle part of the state. And at Peninsula Clean Energy, we also included the town of Los Banos in Merced County. And we were trying to expand further in Merced County, but that's been hasn't happened as quickly as we would have liked it to be. And then there's a board of directors consisting of the elected officials from the different member cities. And for Peninsula Clean Energy, we have 21 cities and towns, plus the county. The county got 2 seats on the board, so there were 23-member board. So I had 23 bosses when I was there, but it was okay. They were all really nice. And our goal was to provide cleaner electricity at lower rates than PG&E. So rather than PG&E providing the electricity generation, we were doing that, and we priced our electricity 5% below PG&E. Right now, it's probably about 10 to 15% below PG&E. CCAs are also expanding in other parts of the country, including the states shown there. Illinois, maybe about 14% of the population is covered by CCAs. Oh, in California, it's close to 40% of the population is now served by a CCA. So it's pretty extensive. And so the utilities don't have to produce electricity to serve that part of the population. The CCAs are now doing that instead. In Massachusetts, it's fairly well established. About 41% of the communities in Massachusetts have a CCA. They're all slightly different. A lot of them were formed based on reducing rates. They're now focusing a little bit more on being greener, so that's really good too. And this is how it works. So the CCA either generates or purchases the electricity from a power plant. Then that power is put on the electric grid, the electric utility, the investor-owned utility, or whatever it might be in that jurisdiction, delivers that electricity on their poles and wires. They bill the customers, and then the customer receives cleaner electricity at a lower rate. So what I want to really focus on today is how you all, investors and entrepreneurs, can engage with CCAs to help to get your technology out there, to get new technologies out there, and to help us continue to green the grid. And there are a number of advantages of dealing with CCAs as opposed to utility companies. First of all, they're pretty small, and they're not necessarily small, but they're faster and more nimble in making decisions. So every month, the board of every CCA has a public meeting where they make decisions on whatever they need to make decisions on, and that's a public meeting. Anyone can come. Everyone's invited to come and are welcome to participate. Whereas to go to a PG&E shareholder meeting, you have to be a shareholder of PG&E. But if you're a CCA customer, everyone in the community is a shareholder. Everyone is a customer. The incentives are aligned in that the CCA wants to keep rates low because the customers, the voters, the stakeholders, shareholders, as it were, they're all the same. And the people serving on the boards of those CCAs are elected by the voters. They want to do well by their constituents. They also don't need regulatory approval to run pilots. If you're trying to deal with PG&E or Southern California Edison, if they want to do a pilot, they need to take it to the Public Utilities Commission and may have a whole discussion about why they want to spend money to do whatever. For a CCA, again, the local board can make a decision based on the recommendations of the staff. And a lot of CCAs are interested in trying out promising new technologies. And then it's also possible to partner with the CCA and maybe other government agencies, such as the California Energy Commission. I just saw yesterday something from NYSERDA in New York, where they're looking to partner for two-way charging. So there's opportunities to partner in that way. And there's certain areas of focus. So the number one responsibility of the CCA is to provide electricity to their customers. So in terms of electricity sourcing, CCAs are always looking for renewable projects. Right now, storage is really important. In order to store the renewable energy that's being produced, you want to be able to store it so that you can deliver it to your customers at times when the solar, for example, is not operating. There's a lot of interest in different types of storage. Right now, lithium ion pretty much provides like 1 to 4 hours worth of storage, but there's also a need for longer term storage for many, many hours, and there's also an interest in seasonal storage. And then in terms of innovation, one of the things that we did at Peninsula Clean Energy, in the cover of our report that is there, we were looking at how can we further reduce emissions, and if we were to have the renewable energy delivered to match our load 24 hours of the day, 7 days a week, then you can significantly reduce emissions. Right now, when someone talks about what percentage of renewables they're getting, they're looking at that on an annual basis. And so there are some times in the summer where the solar is producing more than what the load might need, but then in the evening time, fossil-based generation such as natural gas plants are actually providing the electricity. So if you can get rid of that natural gas by storing excess solar during the daytime and then putting that stored renewable energy into the grid in the evening, we can reduce the use of fossil-based resources. So there's a lot of interest in that, and that would be one area that I would talk about, or that I would say CCAs might be interested in. And part of being able to scale your technology is to be able to partner with someone to pilot the technology and prove the viability of that. So CCAs are a great place to be able to do that. There's also need for more base load resources. So there's in California, there's some geothermal. There's a limited amount of geothermal. A lot of it's already been contracted for. But enhanced geothermal technologies are of interest, and also to be able to somehow or other shape the renewables. So if well, actually in our 24/7 work, we found that the hardest time to supply renewables is winter nights, like the nighttime during the winter. Like that's the new thing. How do you do that? Because there's not that much solar being produced in December, but there's still a lot of load. And how do you have enough electricity, renewable electricity, to meet that time? So seasonal storage, or if you could somehow keep that extra solar that was produced in the summertime and be able to use that at night in the winter, is something that that we need. And then when we look at that emissions, the greatest emissions in California and certainly in San Mateo County are from transportation, from vehicles. So how do we get people into electric vehicles and have them charge those vehicles with the clean electricity that Peninsula Clean Energy is offering and that other CCAs are offering? So we provided some incentives, some dollar incentives to get people to buy EVs. There currently is an incentive for income qualified people in the county to buy a used EV. Other CCAs have other rebates. And then once you have the EVs, you need to be able to charge them. So how do we get enough chargers out there, and how do we make it easy and convenient for people to be able to charge? And a real difficult area is like people who live in apartments or condos, and especially students often live in apartments. How are you going to charge your EV? So we did one pilot at Peninsula Clean Energy looking for a solution to be able to use the common area electricity, but being able to have whoever's using that to pay for the electricity. So we needed like some kind of metered common area electricity charger. So so things like that. There's a lot of things like that you can think of. The same thing for buildings. Buildings use, depending on what data you're seeing, 25 to 35% of the electricity to power buildings. Again, as part of electrification, we want to use that clean electricity to switch people out of their natural gas-fired water heaters or their natural gas-fired space heating to electric heat pumps. And one company that we worked with was called Harvest Thermal. They had a combined heat pump for both the HVAC and the water heating to try to bring the cost down, because the costs now are very expensive. CCAs are offering incentives to try to bring the capital cost in line with a gas gas-fired alternative if you need to replace your heater or your water heater. But that's a real challenge, is trying to get the costs down. And then if your home is fully electric, what happens when the power goes out? Not a good thing, and there's a lot of pushback by residents. It's like, I don't want to electrify my house because how do I know PG&E is going to keep the power on? Well, we don't know that PG&E is going to keep the power on. So some kind of backup type of technology is needed to make sure that the home can continue to operate. You can put in solar with a power wall as your energy backup. To me, I think an exciting area is two-way charging, and to be able to use the battery that you have in your electric vehicle as opposed to putting in a power wall at your house. No offense to anyone who works for Tesla right now, but it just seems to me that there's a huge need for this vehicle to grid charging, because that can also help support the grid. That you can have this rolling battery installation where people can use their cars and get paid to feed power back into the grid, and to use resources more efficiently. So I have a Kia Niro, and my Kia Niro, I looked up, has 65 kilowatt hours of capacity. It costs about $30,000, and as opposed to a Powerwall, which has 14 kilowatt hours and costs about $10,000 to put in. So I have 4.5 times the capacity at 3 times the cost, but it's also more versatile. I can use it for driving. I can use it to power my house. I can't use it to power my house right now because there isn't the technology that would allow me to do that. But just looking in the short term, I think that's a really key area for us to try to focus on. And then there's the grid, expanding the grid. So we need to build a lot of renewable energy projects throughout the country, and we need to get that power from where it's being produced to the load centers. And so there's a lot of existing transmission out there, but there's going to need to be more. Can we better utilize the transmission that we already have? Can we expand, change the types of conductors so that they can carry more electricity? Can we use AI to figure out how we can anticipate outages or more effectively utilize the transmission lines? Are there different materials that can be used? And then there's the whole interconnection process. I think in the talk at lunchtime, it was mentioned that it takes a long time to interconnect a project. And part of the reason why renewable energy is not advancing as quickly as we want it to right now is because it's taking a long time to be able to get your project interconnected and to get the substations upgraded or whatever needs to happen. So I'll stop there. I've been given the little warning from Keegan, but I'm happy to talk to any of you and provide advice about how to approach a CCA and how you might be able to generate interest with the technologies or products that you're offering.